Today we're going to paint a simple tulip. I'm using a quill brush, a very small one, number 2 Da Vinci Casaneo, and I'm going to make this petal wet. And I don't want it drippy wet, so it's getting a little bit drippy wet, so I'm going to touch my brush to the sponge to get it to be wet but not absolutely dripping. So on my brush is magenta, quinacridone magenta and quinacridone rose. And I'm just going to come down the middle and then come down on either side of it with a wider stroke. And then I'm going to dry my brush off on the sponge and go to the next area. And because it's wet, it should keep spreading, but if it seems like you have a line forming, just go over it again. Dipping my brush, drying it a little bit, but now it's mostly just water in there. Turn your paper if it's more comfortable for your hand. Now, so my paper could have been a little bit wetter. Now while that petal dries, I'm going to get some more watered down. I'm going to do this little part, and there's a gap between there. So I'm going to this part next. I'm just touching the outside edge. And then I'm going to rinse, or at least dip my brush, and then go into this next part. I'm going to agitate it if it needs it, if it's not running. And then it's lighter towards the inside than the outside, all with very little effort. I think that's dry enough. Now the next inside part is a little bit of an orange or pink, and it's darker. I've added a little bit of gamboge to my rose. And I still need to darken it a little bit, so I'm going to put some more pink out there. Rinse my brush, dry it off. If you don't dry your brush off, your petal will get all watered down, and then you won't be able to have dark colors. Now I've got my color right. I'm being careful on this side. Going up, and this forms the outline for that other petal. Dip my brush, rinse it off, and immediately go up here and soften this edge. Rinse it some more. And I'm going to go all the way out. And I'm running it back and forth to soften that edge. So now I'm going into more of the purple pink at the top. And at the very top, it's quite light. And now we're ready for this side here. And again, this is more of that deeper orange in here. Not that that's a very deep color, but actually I'm going to make it a little bit deeper at the bottom. And now I'm going to let it fade into the pink by just going with clear water to bring it up. And the darker part switches to this side up here. And so I've dipped my brush, and I'm bringing this paint over, softening that edge, getting some of the purple or pink in here. I think I'm going to switch brushes at this point. This last petal is again more of this purpley pink. I think it's that the insides And again, this little tip is just a bit darker. And this flower, the bottom of this, the green, goes up into the flower a little bit. Then it goes into the stem. So I'm going to just make some spikes going up here. It's kind of a round shape. And then again, we'll soften that edge. Dip my brush, dry it on the sponge, and then I just have water up here. And I just fuzzy that edge into the flower. And then there's also a little bit of that green coming up here. And I'll soften that in too. And a tiny bit of that goes over here in this petal as well. There you have a tulip. Now let's finish these leaves. I'm laying the brush partly on its side to fill in. So 3 strokes. And same thing as here. And where they overlap, you can run over that again and make it a little darker. Laying it on its side. Let's turn your paper around to make it comfortable for your hand. Usually, if the point of the brush is pointing away from you, it's easier to get a nice, neat edge line. And there you have a simple tulip, but just for fun, let's put in some background. Now I'm just going to pretend this is in a field. I'm going to use this teal blue color and just fill it in. And put in some pink here and there. Like there's some of these tulips in the distance. And they get bigger as they come down. To be careful around the flower. Now while this paint's wet, I'm going to soften this edge and work on this part over here a little bit more. And just make some shapes over here of more. I'm using this same brush. I really should get 2 this size. And I'm going to put in a bigger poppy back here. And I want it to run out a little bit like it is. Back there, they're really small. And then I'm going to, way back in the back, I'm going to put some bluish, just little, like poppy things. And you get this feeling of a field of poppies. But everything is blurred, so it looks far away. Do one last thing and then we're finished, and that is, we didn't get this center line in. Dry off my brush, and it curves a little bit. Have fun painting.